So, folks, I apologize. We're having some technical difficulties. Hopefully, you all have me on audio at this point. This is Roland Wall at the Academy of Natural Sciences. I'm the Director for Environmental Initiatives here. This was intended to be a webinar on the upcoming RFP, or on the released RFP for the Delaware Watershed Research Fund. I'm going to try to go ahead and do this just on an audio basis. We will have our slides hopefully at some point shared out to folks, and we can put this posted on the web as well. We are recording this so people have opportunity to ask questions. I was going to have a couple of logistics about using the webinar. As I say, it's not been quite as glitch-free as we were hoping. But if you do have any questions or anything, please come onto the chat box. I think everyone else is muted at this point automatically. So please use the chat if you have any questions or messages. I know, Kathy, you just sent me one saying you could hear me, which was because I hadn't pushed the mute button, apparently. So just to get things kicked off, this is to discuss the second round of funding of the Delaware Watershed Research Fund. This is let me just see where I want to go here. Unfortunately, a certain amount of this was based on having graphics available. Many of you, I think, are already familiar with the fund and with the Delaware River Watershed Initiative. I think some of you may have applied in the past. This second round is going to be a little different in terms of the emphasis that we're placing on the types of proposals we would like to get, but the process overall is going to be pretty similar to what we did last year. So just to explain again, the Delaware Watershed Research Fund is sponsored by the William Penn Foundation. It's administered by the Academy of Natural Sciences. It is designed to expand research on topics related to watersheds, particularly both the science and management of human impacts on watersheds. There's a particular emphasis on the Delaware River Basin, and it is meant to reflect and complement and build on the work of the Delaware River Watershed Initiative. The DRWI, which again I think many of you are familiar with, is another project. Actually, it's a group of projects that's sponsored by the William Penn Foundation, and that has a large-scale goal to promote healthy watersheds in the Delaware by providing to provide sufficient high-quality water for natural and human communities through the promotion of healthy watersheds in the Delaware. The DRWI, as many of you know, works on a targeted geography. There's 8 clusters, sub-watershed clusters within the Delaware Basin that the foundation focuses its funds on for protection and restoration. These geographies, the specific clusters, are not figured into the funding for the Delaware Watershed Research Fund. In other words, research can take place anywhere within the Delaware Basin and does not have to be limited to one of the sub-watershed clusters. I have my colleague Haley Oakland is also on the line. She's muted as well, but I'm just asking her to dive in if I'm missing anything here. And again, apologize if this is a little ad-lib because I'm trying to do this without the slides. So the Delaware River Watershed Initiative reflects a vision that the William Penn Foundation and the other partner organizations have for the basin. It's to coordinate restoration, protection, and monitoring. And by monitoring, I think we mean a range of methods for evaluation and for developing new knowledge and transferable practices that can be used to protect the watershed. As the science lead, the Academy of Natural Sciences has its operational role, which is to oversee the monitoring process. But we've also been tasked with helping to improve the new knowledge and transferable practices. So particularly, we are looking at how to facilitate and promote watershed-related topics. Looks to me like Haley is trying to start the slides, but again, apologies that our any meeting doesn't seem to be behaving for us. So in order to promote and facilitate research, the Academy has had the opportunity to re-grant funds again provided by the William Penn Foundation. The Delaware Watershed Research Fund is for projects external to the Academy. The Drexel Watershed Consortium is targeted to researchers in ANS's parent institution of Drexel University. That was set up as a special way to avoid conflicts of interest in the development of the research funding. So since I don't have the slide to show you, it was just a short slide talking about the role of ANS within the DRWI. In short, we, as I say, act as a science lead. We help to oversee a variety of data collection and data analyses. Oh, wait a minute, someone can see the slides. Okay. I'm getting a message that folks can see the slides on the screen. So let me scroll down, assuming they're my slides and not Haley's. So it shows Haley showing the slides. Okay, Haley, I don't know if you're on or if I'm on. Let's scroll down, if you are, to the slide that has ANS role on it, so we can go from there. And just to sort of answer the mystery, anyone? Okay, so Haley's the one on. So Haley, if you can scroll down from that slide to the next one. I don't think we need to go back anywhere, but if you can put on the slide that starts out Delaware Watershed Research Fund with objectives. So just in general, the objectives of the DWRF are to build an integrated research agenda within the Delaware Basin, particularly to look at watershed science as it relates to the human impacts on the Delaware Basin. We want to look at protection, restoration, and overall knowledge of watersheds. We're focusing research efforts on identified priorities. I'll go over the priorities a little bit more because they're not the same as we had last time. We particularly put an emphasis on multidisciplinary and interdisciplinary watershed projects. And I will say that for the purposes of the RFP, although it's not an absolute requirement, it definitely is going to be preferred to see multiple institutions and multiple disciplines involved, particularly for this round, because we are looking for more of an interdisciplinary approach to human dimension issues. Haley, if you can scroll down to the next slide, assuming that we're seeing the one, the second round research priorities. So we'd like to see projects that particularly work on human dimensions, so that may be looking at disciplines. So in this second round of funding, let me backtrack here. We initially funded 10 research projects for a total of $4 million. We focused primarily on ecological research and particularly natural sciences, chemistry, and hydrology. For the second round, which is a $1 million total, we would like to have projects that focus more on human dimensions. So that can include a variety of the human or the social and behavioral sciences and subjects, as well as interdisciplinary subjects like policy and public health. We would prefer to see projects that relate directly to the ecological research that's also underway, and that would be a bonus. But again, it's not a requirement. But we do want to see how the human dimension questions relate to those that are also being studied on the natural science side. We hope people will use this as an opportunity to explore novel research ideas, again, particularly emphasizing interdisciplinary strategies, which by which we mean interdisciplinary beyond sort of the multidisciplinary work, and then also hopefully build productive partnerships. William Penn is very, as our sponsoring organization, places a high emphasis on working together. And so we hope that the research proposals we receive will do that. Again, we're sort of asking the grantees to be a little more imaginative, think outside the box a little bit, and look at ways that they can work together across disciplines and institutions. Haley, if we can move to the next slide, there's a list of examples here, And again, when we post these slides, you'll be welcome to look at these. These are for illustrative purposes only, so it gives you some ideas of the kinds of subjects and topics we're looking at, so behavioral issues, communication strategies, looking at how organizations interact, particularly in networking situations where you have multiple organizations with multiple agendas involved, and then other kinds of planning paradigms that might relate, as well as some specifics. A specific topic that was suggested is looking at how wastewater treatment infrastructure is meeting different kinds of human and natural needs. So those are all just examples. There's certainly not anything that we're not saying you have to fit one of those categories. There's a variety of other things that might fit. We're hoping that the proposal letters, the pre-proposal letters that I'm going to talk about in a second, will give an opportunity for folks to explore some new ways of thinking about their research questions and how they might want to phrase those. So I'll move. We move to the next slide. We're looking at, as I say, some of the logistics of how the funds will be distributed. We have a total of $1 million. We're thinking that this will run to 2 to 4 projects. So obviously the amounts would be from $250,000 to $500,000. If you have other thoughts as to how your project would make use of the funds in a way that either would be less than those amounts or more than those amounts, you're welcome to try to propose that and to see if that's something that might resonate as we go through the selection process. We would certainly encourage you to find matching funds, although the match is not required. We again encourage collaboration, and if there's other ways that you can leverage the funds that are being used, that would certainly strengthen your proposal. We have a timeline that I'll go over in a moment. And we are also going to be requesting pre-proposals as outlined in the RFP. The pre-proposals are obviously meant to be shorter. They're intended to help us see how folks are interpreting the requirements of the grant and to give people a chance to propose the direction they would like to go. We have an in-house process we use just for managing the proposals. And that we work with our partners at Drexel University to manage the administration of the proposals, and when we get through the pre-proposals, we'll invite folks to come in on that as needed. We have a senior advisory group that is made up of internal and external advisors. They assist with the development of the RFP and with setting some of the broad standards. They also assist with the initial review of the pre-proposals. Okay, I'm hoping I'm on the same slide because I know Haley made a few changes on some of these. So if we go down to the next slide where we just have some guidance, work is preferred within the Delaware watershed. If you can make the case that this has a high level of academic merit and particularly that it would be transferable across watersheds and specifically within the Delaware Basin, that would also be considered. But again, we're putting a high emphasis on the work of the that relates to what the DRWI is doing. So we would certainly prefer to see things that relate to the Delaware. We'll have some requirements. We're going to ask each grantee to participate in the annual conference. We would. I'm sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself here. We would also have as a requirement that folks plan on peer-reviewed publications and also conferences as available to make a presence for the Delaware Basin research that's being done. We are making the funds available to any nonprofit, governmental, or academic institution. We have in the RFP specified how funds can be used. We have a restriction on the amount of funds that can be used for capital funding, and that's laid out in the RFP. We would ask, as I just said, that there would be a published paper come out, hopefully more than one published paper come out of your research. Also conference presentations and ways of leveraging this into proposals for larger funds would also be one of the deliverables that we would hope to see. We are having an annual conference for the DRWI related research. We're going to begin this actually in this year in November 8th. So at that point, past grantees will be asked to update and review the work they're doing. And in this year's conference on November 8th, we'll also be announcing the awardees for this round of funding, and we'll be asking the awardees to give a brief summary of what they're proposing to do as well at that conference. And then we have outlined in the RFP data sharing arrangements. The foundation and the Academy would like all of the data from this work to ultimately be publicly available. We understand certainly that there's priorities on data prior to publication, but there's an outline in the RFP of how that data sharing would occur, and how long at what point we would hope to have data made available for public use. The time frame, we are doing the information session today. We would like to see letters of intent by June 23rd, by midnight on the 23rd of June 2017. And then we would, in July 21st, have reviewed the letters of intent and be making invitations for full proposals. So there will be some selection going on during that. Not every letter of intent will be invited for full proposal, but we hope the letters of intent will give the opportunity for folks to get a good initial proposal across, and then we will make those invitations. The full proposal will be due on August 25th, so you'll have about 5 or 6 weeks to work on that. And then we will put them into a peer review process with external peer reviewers, and then final decision by the senior team here at the Academy, with the funding decisions made in the last week of October, and the expectation that we'll be able to announce the funding decisions at the October 8th conference. Ayla, you're going to have to dive in. I'm not sure if we included any more material in slides, but if so, let me know. That's the overview of how we'd like to go with the funds. Let me see. So that is the end of the slide presentation. More than happy to answer any questions folks might have. As I say, please use the chat box if you have any. And then we'll also be posting this presentation, and we'll have a posting of FAQs, and as we receive other questions, we'll add them to the FAQs as well. So any questions as we go on here? Okay, I'm not seeing anything so far. I think it usually tells me if somebody's typing. Yeah, so having had the amount of technical problems we're having, I'm not 100% sure that no one's sending me anything, but it doesn't look like we're getting any questions at this point. Please feel free to send any questions to the Academy grants. Hold on a minute. We have one here. Is there an overarching research question you're hoping to answer with this research? A question or questions that drives the examples you showed? I don't think it's been. I don't think we've formally stated it. I mean, what we'd really like to see is how can other disciplines that have not been traditionally funded under these grants be applied to the goals of the research of the Watershed Initiative, which are to build healthy watersheds or to promote high quality water through the presence of healthy watersheds. So it's really how, are there ways that social sciences, behavioral sciences, policy studies, even the humanities, if that's a direction people want to try to go, are there ways that those sorts of disciplines can be applied to enhance the work that's being done to protect the watershed? So that would be the general emphasis. But again, we're hoping that the applicants will come up with some imaginative variations on that'll be of interest. Any other questions? So as I say, the FAQs are posted to our website, and we have an email that I think is on the next slide. Make sure. Ellie, if you haven't yet, if you want to scroll down to the, so you can see on the slide that's on the screen now, ANSPgrants@drexel.edu is our grant our grant email address. So please feel free to drop us any questions and let us know if there's any other thoughts on this. Otherwise, we look forward to seeing some great letters of great pre-proposals, great letters of intent on June 23rd, and look forward to communicating with you more at that time. I'm going to give it another minute just to make sure there's nothing else on the chat, and then we'll go ahead and adjourn. Okay, thank you all for joining us today. Please feel free to contact us if you have any questions.